It happens when you least expect it. That weight in your stomach on a perfectly good Saturday morning. The panic that hits when someone asks, "So, what have you been up to?" And you realize you have no real answer. The way your throat tightens when you see old friends posting about their purpose, their calling, their mission, and you can't name yours. And worse, lying in bed after a full day wondering what you actually did, what any of it was for, why none of it feels like it matters. You distract yourself. You make plans. You tell yourself next month will be different, but you know it won't be, because you don't know what would make it different. Now stop for a second. What if I told you that this weight, this panic, this suffocation isn't anxiety at all? What if Viktor Frankl, after watching men die in concentration camps not from starvation but from losing their why, identified exactly what's crushing you? And what if he discovered that the people suffering most aren't those with hard lives, but those with comfortable lives that mean nothing? Viktor Frankl spent 3 years in Nazi concentration camps, places where everything was stripped away: dignity, safety, identity, hope. And yet he discovered something that changed psychology forever. He saw that those who survived weren't necessarily the strongest or the smartest. They were those who had found meaning, a reason to endure. But here's what's haunting. Frankl returned to civilization and found people suffering from a different kind of prison, not one with barbed wire, but one of their own making, a prison of meaninglessness, an existential vacuum so profound that it was destroying them from the inside out. Have you ever wondered why you feel so anxious even when your life is objectively fine? Have you asked yourself why success doesn't cure the emptiness, why relationships don't fill the void, why no amount of achievement makes you feel like enough? Perhaps it's because you've been treating the symptom while ignoring the diagnosis. Perhaps you've been trying to manage anxiety when what your soul is really screaming for is meaning. Frankl said that man's search for meaning is the primary motivation in his life. Not pleasure, not power, not comfort, meaning. And when that search is frustrated, when meaning is absent, the result is not just sadness, it's a specific form of suffering he called neurogenic neurosis, anxiety born not from psychological conflict, but from spiritual emptiness. This video is not another anxiety management tutorial. I'm not here to teach you breathing exercises or give you platitudes about positive thinking, because those are band-aids on a wound that goes to your very reason for existing. This video is a confrontation, and if you have the courage to watch until the end, you might discover something that no therapist, no guru, no self-help book has ever told you: that your anxiety is not your enemy. It's a messenger. And the message is urgent. So the choice is yours. Will you keep numbing yourself with distractions, or will you finally ask the question that terrifies you most? What am I living for? The anxiety you feel is not random. It didn't appear because you're broken or defective, and it's definitely not just a chemical imbalance that a pill can permanently fix. For Frankl, anxiety of the existential type is a symptom of what he called the existential vacuum, an inner emptiness created when life lacks meaning, purpose, or direction. And this isn't a poetic metaphor, it's a clinical diagnosis. Frankl believed that within every human being there is an innate drive to find meaning. This drive is so fundamental that we can endure almost any suffering if we know why we're suffering. But modern life has created a crisis. We've been told that happiness comes from comfort, from pleasure, from accumulating experiences and possessions. We've been conditioned to seek self-fulfillment, self-actualization, everything. But here's the brutal irony. The more we chase our happiness, the more it eludes us. Why? Because we're looking in the wrong direction. Frankl discovered that meaning is not found by looking inward. It's found by looking outward, by orienting yourself towards something beyond yourself, a cause to serve, a person to love, a contribution to make. Anxiety emerges when you live for nothing greater than your own comfort, when you wake up and don't know what you're waking up for, When you go through days, weeks, years without a sense that your existence matters. You feel restless even without reason. You feel dread about the future even when everything is secure. You feel a hollowness that no achievement can fill, no relationship can satisfy, no amount of distraction can silence. Why does this happen? Because your will to meaning has been frustrated. Your soul is starving for purpose, and you're trying to feed it with entertainment. When you live only to avoid pain, to maximize comfort, to follow a script written by consumer culture, you are denying your deepest nature. And the denied nature doesn't disappear. It manifests first as vague dissatisfaction, then as anxiety, and if you continue ignoring it, as despair. Frankl didn't see existential anxiety as pathology. He saw it as a wake-up call, a sign that you're living below your potential, that you're settling for a provisional existence when you were meant for something profound. But to hear that call requires recognizing that anxiety carries a question. Not what's wrong with me, but what am I not doing that I should be doing? What responsibility am I avoiding? What meaning am I refusing to see? Do you feel like your life lacks direction? Perhaps it's because you've been living according to other people's definitions of success, other people's values, other people's expectations. What anxiety is trying to show you is that there is a gap between the life you're living and the life you're meant to live. And as long as that gap remains, the emptiness will only deepen. But what exactly creates this gap? What are we running from? What meaning have we buried so deep that we've forgotten it exists? In the next section, we will explore the most dangerous mindset of our age, what Frankl called provisional existence, and how it turns your entire life into a waiting room where nothing ever truly begins. If this content is resonating with you, click the subscribe button and join this community. Your support allows us to keep creating this depth. Thank you.
You were educated to prepare. From childhood, you were told that life would begin later. After you finish school, after you get into college, after you graduate, after you get the job, after you get promoted, after you find the right person, after you buy the house. You've been trained to see life as a series of checkpoints and happiness as the destination that comes after the final one. But here's the truth no one told you. You're still waiting. And that waiting has become your prison. Frankl called this provisional existence. It's the mindset of someone who believes that real life hasn't started yet, that today is just preparation for tomorrow, that meaning will come later, once conditions are perfect, once you've figured everything out, once you're finally ready. But later never comes. And in the meantime, you're dying inside, one postponed day at a time. Frankl saw this mindset in the concentration camps. Prisoners who told themselves, I'll start living when I get out. I'll be happy when this is over. I'll pursue my dreams when I'm free. And tragically, many of those who survived physically never truly survived psychologically, because they had spent so long in provisional existence that they forgot how to live in the present. But you don't need barbed wire to be trapped. You've created your own version of provisional existence. You say, I'll be happy when I lose weight, when I get that promotion, when I finally meet someone, when my anxiety goes away. And in saying that, you surrender the only moment you actually have, this one. Provisional existence is anxiety's breeding ground. Because when you live as if real life is always around the corner, you never commit fully to anything. You never invest your whole self. You never take the risks that meaning demands. You play it safe. You keep your options open, you avoid deep commitments because what if something better comes along? But here's the cruel twist. The more you postpone commitment, the more anxious you become. Because deep down, you know you're wasting your life. You know that years are passing and you're still rehearsing instead of performing. You're still waiting for permission that will never come. Frankl discovered that meaning requires commitment. It requires you to choose a direction and move toward it. Even when you're uncertain, even when you're afraid, even when you don't feel ready. Meaning is not found, it's created through decisive action, through saying yes to a responsibility, through dedicating yourself to something beyond your own comfort. Have you ever wondered why you self-sabotage? Why you avoid the very things you claim to want? Why you procrastinate on your deepest aspirations? It's not laziness. It's not fear of failure. It's provisional existence protecting you from the terror of commitment. Because if you never truly begin, you never truly risk. And if you never truly risk, you never have to face the possibility that you might not be enough. But that protection comes at a devastating cost. It costs you meaning. It costs you purpose. It costs you the one life you have. Society reinforces this prison. It tells you to wait until you're financially stable, emotionally healed, perfectly prepared. But Frankl's message is ruthless. Life doesn't wait for you to be ready. And meaning doesn't emerge from perfect conditions. It emerges from choosing to act despite imperfection. Frankl said that the meaning of life differs from person to person, from moment to moment. You cannot ask, what is the meaning of life? Life is asking you that question, and it expects an answer, not in words, but in action, in commitment, in how you spend your one wild and precious existence. But how do you answer? How do you move from waiting to living? The answer lies in understanding something that sounds paradoxical. Your anxiety isn't just about the future you fear. It's about the present you're refusing to inhabit. In the next section, we will explore anticipatory anxiety and how the very act of trying to control your fear is what keeps you paralyzed. Your anxiety does not only live in your thoughts, it lodges in your body. In the racing heartbeat before a meeting, in the shallow breath when you think about the future, in the tension that grips you for no identifiable reason. These sensations are not just physical, they are existential. They are your body's way of saying that something is profoundly wrong with how you're oriented toward life. Frankl identified a specific pattern he called anticipatory anxiety. It's the fear of fear itself. You become so afraid of experiencing anxiety that the fear of it creates more anxiety. You avoid situations because you might feel anxious there. You obsess over whether you'll be anxious tomorrow. You scan your body constantly, checking for signs that the dreaded feeling is returning. And in doing so, you trap yourself in a cycle where fear becomes self-fulfilling. How many times has your body reacted with panic even though nothing dangerous was happening? This is not your body malfunctioning. This is your body responding to a perceived threat. But the threat is not external, it's internal. It's the threat of meaninglessness, of wasted life, of reaching your deathbed and realizing you never truly lived. Your nervous system is sounding the alarm not because something bad might happen, but because nothing meaningful is happening. That's why surface techniques rarely work long-term. Progressive muscle relaxation, distraction exercises, reassurance seeking might bring temporary relief, but they don't address the root. They're attempts to control the uncontrollable, to manage symptoms while ignoring the message. Your body is not your enemy, it's your ally, desperately trying to wake you up. Frankl understood that the body is symbolic. It carries the weight of unlived life, of unexpressed potential, of responsibilities avoided. An anxious body is a body in conflict, pulled between the safety of provisional existence and the terrifying freedom of commitment. And each symptom is a question your soul is asking. When will you start living? When will you stop running? When will you choose? You live exhausted not just because your schedule is demanding, but because living without meaning is the most exhausting existence of all. You carry the weight of unlived potential, unspoken truths, unmade commitments. Your body is screaming for you to orient yourself towards something that matters, to find the meaning that would make all of this worthwhile. But here's where Frankl's insight becomes revolutionary. He didn't try to eliminate anxiety. He transformed it through a technique he called paradoxical intention. The principle is simple but profound. Instead of fighting your fear, you deliberately intend it. You lean into it. You invite it to do its worst. And in doing so, you break its power over you. Imagine fearing a panic attack so much that you spend your days in vigilance. Paradoxical intention would have you say, "Fine, I want the biggest panic attack possible. Come on, anxiety, show me what you got." And something shocking happens.
the anxiety loses its grip. Why? Because you've stopped running. You've stopped giving it power through resistance. You've chosen to face it rather than flee it. This is not a trick, it's a philosophical stance. It's accepting that you cannot control everything, that life contains suffering, that fear is part of being human. But you can choose your relationship to that fear. You can stop letting it dictate your decisions. You can reclaim your freedom not by eliminating anxiety, but by refusing to let it prevent you from living meaningfully. But you don't understand the technique, you need to understand why it works. Why does choosing to face anxiety rob it of its power? The answer lies in the deepest truth of Frankl's philosophy, and that truth will either set you free or terrify you, because it demands something you might not be ready to give: total responsibility for your existence. In the next section, we will explore this final freedom, the one thing no one can take from you, and how recognizing it transforms anxiety from prison to portal.
You are not here to be comfortable. You are not here to avoid pain. You are not here to maximize pleasure or minimize discomfort. But the problem is that no one taught you what you are here for. From an early age, you absorbed messages about success, about fitting in, about security. You learned to pursue what others value, to become what others expect, to measure yourself by external standards. And in the process, you lost contact with your own unique task. Viktor Frankl called this your personal meaning, and it's not something you invent or choose arbitrarily. It's something you discover. It's the specific contribution only you can make, the responsibility only you can fulfill, the answer to life's question that only you can give. But discovering it requires something most people avoid: confronting your freedom. And here's the terrifying part: you are radically free. Even in the concentration camp, even with everything stripped away, Frankl recognized that one freedom remained: the freedom to choose his attitude, his response, his inner stance. No one could take that from him, and no one can take it from you. This freedom is not liberation, it's burden. Because if you are truly free to choose, then you are responsible for what you choose. You cannot blame your circumstances, your past, your anxiety, your limitations. You are the author of your existence. And that realization is either crushing or clarifying. Most people run from this responsibility. They prefer to see themselves as victims of circumstance, products of their environment, slaves to their emotions. Because if you're not free, you're not responsible. If you're not responsible, you don't have to act. And if you don't have to act, you can stay safe in provisional existence forever. But anxiety knows the truth. Anxiety is the alarm that sounds when you're living in bad faith, when you're pretending you don't have choices, when you're hiding from your freedom. Every time you say, "I can't," your soul knows you mean, "I won't." Every time you say, "someday," your soul knows you mean, "never." And it screams in protest through your body, through your restlessness, through the gnawing emptiness that no distraction can fill. To escape anxiety, you don't need better coping mechanisms. You need to accept your freedom and the responsibility it demands. You need to stop asking, "What do I want?" and start asking, "What does life want from me? What is my task? What meaning is waiting for me to actualize it?" Frankl said that self-transcendence is the essence of human existence. Meaning is not found by focusing on yourself, but by forgetting yourself in service of something beyond yourself. When you're consumed with "how do I feel? Am I anxious? How anxious am I? Is it getting worse?" This hyper-reflection creates what he called hyper-intention, trying too hard to control something that worsens with control. The more you focus on not being anxious, the more anxious you become. The antidote is de-reflection. It means deliberately shifting your attention away from yourself and towards something meaningful in the world. It's not suppression or denial, it's redirection. When you're consumed with "how do I feel?" you need to ask instead, "What needs to be done? Who needs my attention? What can I contribute right now?" But questioning alone isn't enough.
Frankl discovered that anxiety thrives on self-observation, on constantly monitoring yourself. Am I anxious? How anxious am I? Is it getting worse? This hyper-reflection creates what he called hyper-intention, trying too hard to control something that worsens with control. The more you focus on not being anxious, the more anxious you become. The antidote is dereflection. It means deliberately shifting your attention away from yourself and toward something meaningful in the world. It's not suppression or denial, it's redirection. When you're consumed with, how do I feel? You need to ask instead, what needs to be done? Who needs my attention? What can I contribute right now?
Frankl saw this in practice. A patient obsessing with whether they could fall asleep would remain awake. But if they focused on reading something meaningful, or thinking about someone they loved, or planning how to solve a problem, sleep would come naturally. Anxiety loses power when you stop feeding it with attention and start feeding your life with purpose. Pay attention. Dereflection is not distraction. Distraction is escape. Dereflection is engagement. It's the recognition that you are not the center of the universe, that there are tasks waiting, people needing, meanings calling. And when you answer those calls, your self-focused anxiety shrinks in proportion to the significance of what you're doing. This brings us to meaning moments. Frankl insisted that meaning is not a permanent state you achieve once and keep forever. It's discovered moment by moment, situation by situation. Each moment contains a potential meaning, a unique opportunity that exists only now and will never exist again. Your task is to become sensitive to these moments, to recognize them, to seize them. A meaning moment might be noticing someone who needs kindness and offering it. It might be facing a difficult truth you've been avoiding. It might be choosing integrity over convenience. It might be starting the project you've postponed for years. These moments are quiet. They don't announce themselves with trumpets. They whisper. And if you're too busy managing your anxiety, too focused on your own comfort, too committed to provisional existence, you'll miss them entirely. Socratic questioning, dereflection, meaning moments. These are the tools of the existential practitioner. And if you truly want to transform anxiety from burden to compass, you need to stop seeking relief and start seeking meaning. You need to stop asking, how do I feel better? And start asking, how do I live better? But understanding all this is still not enough, because now comes the hardest part, choosing. Actually choosing, not in theory, not someday, but right now. And for that, you will have to confront the ultimate question, the one you've been avoiding your entire life. In the next and final section, we will reach the turning point, the moment when you look at your anxiety and realize it was never the villain. It was the wake-up call. And now you must decide, will you hit snooze again, or will you finally answer? It's time to stop lying to yourself, to look at your anxiety not as a cruel punishment, but as a desperate message that life has been sending you. Everything you've felt up to this point, the restlessness, the dread, the hollowness, the sense that you're wasting your life, were not failures. They were signals, existential alarms, your soul begging you to wake up, to stop waiting, to start living. You have spent your life postponing, waiting for the right moment, the right circumstances, the right feeling. But anxiety doesn't want you to feel ready. It wants you to choose anyway. It didn't arise to destroy you. It emerged because something inside you was already dying. Your potential, your purpose, your one irreplaceable life. And that death required a warning. The warning is anxiety. This process hurts. It hurts because it requires honesty. It demands that you stop blaming circumstances, stop hiding behind excuses, stop pretending you're powerless. You are not powerless. You are terrifyingly powerful. You have the freedom to choose meaning or to choose comfort, and you've been choosing comfort, and comfort is killing you slowly. But you didn't come here to be comfortable. You came here to become, to actualize the specific potential that is uniquely yours, to answer the question that only your life can answer. And that's exactly why Frankl said, everything can be taken from a man, but one thing, the last of the human freedoms, to choose one's attitude in any given set of circumstances, to choose one's own way. Anxiety is persistent because you are still choosing the wrong way, choosing safety over significance, choosing postponement over commitment, choosing self-focus over self-transcendence. But the turning point is this: when you finally choose to act on what matters instead of continuing to manage what you feel. Now the choice is before you. You can continue seeking techniques to calm your anxiety, continuing to treat symptoms while ignoring the diagnosis, or you can, for the first time, stop running. Face the question life is asking you, and begin answering it with your life, not your words. Not because it's comfortable, but because it's necessary. Because your soul is exhausted from living provisionally. Because you're running out of time. Because on your deathbed, you won't regret the anxiety you felt. You'll regret the life you didn't live because you let anxiety stop you. If this video stirred something within you, I want you to write one sentence in the comments. I choose meaning. It's not just a sentence, it's a declaration, a commitment to yourself that you will stop waiting and start living. And more than that, share what meaning you're going to pursue. Your clarity might be the catalyst someone else needs to wake up. And if you've made it this far, don't stop now. The next video continues this journey into the deepest questions of existence. And trust me, it's crucial because transformation doesn't happen in a single insight. It happens when you keep showing up, even when everything in you wants to retreat to provisional existence, even when choosing meaning feels terrifying. So click on the next video. Your life is waiting, and it won't wait forever.